It's so weird to imagine LeBron getting the call and being like, hey, are you cool with us signing Lance Stevenson? And him just saying yes. Lance is annoying to everyone, let alone LeBron.
You just signed a meme. That's it. Hello and welcome to The Ringer's NBA Free Agency Check-In. I'm Chris Ryan. I'm joined by Juliet Litman. Hi, Juliet.
Hello. And
Kevin O'Connor. It's day 3 pretty much of NBA Free Agency. And there aren't a lot of more shoes to drop, but yesterday a big one did drop, where DeMarcus Cousins signed with the Golden State Warriors for the mid-level $5.3 million one-year deal. There are 2 reactions that then came from this. Oh my God, this isn't fair, Warriors dynasty, Boogie third splash brother. Or, who cares, this is a 300-pound guy with one leg who's a ball-stopping locker room malcontent. Which one is right, Kevin?
As you know, my first reaction was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is horrible. This is a joke. But as I settled down, it's like, okay, it took unbelievable circumstances for this to happen. Boogie had to be hurt. Nobody had to want him for whether it was his injury proneness or the fact that, like you said, he was a malcontent in the locker room,
right,
or the fact that they just don't view him as a impactful winning player.
It's a year, it's basically almost a full regular season you're gonna miss with this guy.
And then you would still have to pay him. And when you don't have much money, most teams only have the mid-level exception, and some of those teams wouldn't even want to have DeMarcus Cousins rehab on their team, sitting on the bench for the entire season. It was just an unbelievable circumstance for Golden State to swoop in and get a guy who might not even be impactful this season.
From your reporting, were people more concerned about his injury or his locker room reputation?
It's got to be the injury. I think because of the list of players that have suffered a ruptured Achilles, and whether it's in football or basketball, across sports, not a lot of them come back to become the same guy.
Yeah, people bring up Dominique Wilkins coming back and making like 2 All-Star teams in his 30s, but that was a different league, and the game was played at a slower pace. Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas is like, okay, cool, good luck.
Yes.
So.
And there's always at least one exception to everything that happens.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Of course.
But is Boogie the incredible athletic specimen that's going to reverse the history of Achilles tendon rehabilitation? I don't know.
I don't know either. Also, he's doing his rehab in Las Vegas, where he lives, which is just not what I consider to be the rehab center of the world.
Really? So, I think they might have a lot of rehab centers in Las Vegas, actually. Kevin, why did you react? Why did you say you have to be kidding me? Do you feel like the cap smoothing that was supposed to happen and it didn't, in 2016, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And is this going to be part of Adam Silver's legacy? That the competitive balance of the league got tilted by this one sort of almost loophole in the collective bargaining agreement?
Well, I mean, they saw this coming.
Sure.
Right? They warned the NBPA about this, and the NBPA, declined the offer. There was no further negotiating, no counter proposals. The owners and the players weren't able to come to a mutual agreement that would have made it work. So you had the cap spike in 2016. KD got to go to Golden State for that reason, and then every other team made silly offers, and Timothy Mozgov, Joakim Noah,
Evan Turner,
and now we're feeling that this summer with Boogie not having much of a market, and then other guys like Clint Capella out there.
We're going to get to all those restricted
Amazing.
free agents. The guys who are remaining are, I think you could put together a team of the guys who are remaining, and they would be better than a lot of the teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's great. That's so crazy. It is really weird to think about the shape of the league. And I was reading your piece this morning on TheRinger.com about how Boogie ended up on the Warriors, and I was thinking about it, is it in the players' best interest for the league to have competitive balance, or does it not really matter? Because that was the argument, and obviously the Players Association just was like, go for the money. That's what unions do. They represent their players, rightfully so. And you understand from the teams, from the owner's perspective, why they'd want competitive balance. But I think it's a little more complicated for the players. If I was not going to be a superstar, I think I'd want competitive balance.
Think about it this way, and this brings up LeBron. So let's move on to LeBron James moving to the Lakers. There were better basketball decisions out there for LeBron. I mean, Haralabob talked about this on Bill's podcast, that the Rockets were if LeBron wanted to win a title next year, probably the easiest path against the Warriors rather than joining them, although who knows what would happen.
Celtics?
Was a sign and trade with the Rockets or signing with the Celtics, right? But he decided to go to Los Angeles. And he decided to go to Los Angeles likely because it was a good fit for his family. His kids are going to go play basketball. He signed a 3-year deal with Los Angeles, unlike the 1-year deals he signed with Cleveland. I would imagine part of that because his family was like, you get to make one more move.
Yeah.
We're not going to up stakes and move to New York or Chicago or Houston or San Antonio or wherever in a year and a half if you decide to do this.
Mercenary LeBron was just a fantasy.
Yeah, and Mercenary LeBron was a fantasy. He must know that the Lakers are not going to win the title next year.
Certainly not with this team.
Well, that's what brings you to this. And now this is basically like a 2-year play, but I think we're kind of maybe moving to a post-rings world. We're moving to a world where these guys are like, basketball is one part of a lifestyle that I want to create for myself. And I'm not being critical of that. Like, I don't have these old like ideas of like, you got to work every day until your fingers bleed to win a ring. Yeah, exactly, the team that drafted you. But LeBron James did not make solely a basketball decision. And if he's doing that, you got to imagine other guys will too.
Sure. Monday morning, I got a press release like before 9 a.m. about Savannah James's new sports drink for kids. It's like an organic beverage. And in the press release, it was like, one of the best parts about LeBron signing the Lakers is Savannah has a business of her own. Yeah. And so, and I don't know. It's a crowded space with Body Armor, Gatorade, all of those, I don't know if the kids need this K+ water, but it was, to your point, there was a lot kind of just waiting for his family, waiting on LeBron going to the Lakers. And also he's gonna be 34 in December, I think. And so he's in the phase of his career where it makes more sense to not only get as much money as he got like 154 million for 4 years, but then like so many more millions for his family by way of being in Los Angeles.
And then like with LeBron, it's not just about basketball, it's about building really his empire, movie star, whether he wants to, continue increasing his businesses for him and his family, kids playing basketball at Sierra Canyon. There's so much more in Los Angeles for him to build for his post-career when he wants to move into team ownership at some point. But still, even with the team though, these are all 1-year deals.
Yes.
And they can still add Kawhi next summer. They can still have versatility to add a star and be in championship contention. Because guess what? They're not winning it this year with this Golden State team. But maybe next year, but then you're getting to LeBron being 35, 36 years old.
Right.
But if he's still able to sustain success moving forward, they can still build a contender.
Here's one problem with that. The Lakers signed Rajon Rondo, JaVale McGee, and Lance Stevenson. $27 million. So, meanwhile, Marcus Smart, Clint Capella, Jabari Parker, Zach LaVine, all sorts of other players that could have some sort of impact on the Lakers, not only this season, but over the next 5 seasons, are still on the market. Either these deals are directed by LeBron James, in which case he's as bad of a faux GM as we always thought he was, or Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson had the collective wizardry to make one good move, and that was sign LeBron, and then have promptly screwed this team with a bunch of guys who A, are no longer that good at basketball, and B, have a history of being bad in the locker room.
The Rondo one is like, I get. Because in some ways, he's
leader, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think also his basketball IQ maps very well with LeBron's.
Yes.
In terms of that sort of fit. But then from there, it's so weird to imagine LeBron getting the call and being like, "Hey, are you cool with us signing Lance Stevenson?" and him just saying yes. Lance is annoying to everyone, let alone LeBron.
Yeah, you just signed a meme. That's it. I don't understand what the plan is here. And if the plan is, okay, we need some veteran talent to fill out the bench because we're either going to make this package move for Kawhi now, or we don't really care who plays for the Lakers. We're about developing Ball, Kuzma, Hart, and Ingram with LeBron. These guys can fill in the minutes, and then next year we go for Durant or Kawhi. That's what you think it is.
Chris Vernon and I just got done arguing about this on the Ringer NBA show, and that's my stance, that these are all 1-year deals, and that's it.
You know who would have loved that plan?
Kawhi.
Dan Gilbert.
Sure.
Dan Gilbert would have been, he would have been like, you couldn't have just said, here's the plan, do it this way, and instead of me tying up $80, $90 million in J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson and all these guys that I felt like I needed to get to keep you engaged with this project, I could have signed these 1-year deals and constantly be getting money off the books, and we could have made runs. I mean, I think it was just the other day I was listening to, Windhorst and Zach were talking about, the Cavs wanted to go after Paul George, but LeBron wouldn't commit to the team.
Right.
That's wild. I mean, this is the short-term planning destroys your chance of winning a title.
Well, LeBron is doing long-term planning, but not for basketball. Yeah. So that's the issue. He knew that he'd be coming to LA, and so he wouldn't commit. But I'm curious what happens to Lonzo Ball. I think that's like the biggest question that still lingers over this Lakers team. And there's also just now forever going to be like this weird connection between the Cavs and the Lakers because half of the Lakers are on the Cavs from last year. And it's so crazy that LeBron played with Clarkson and Nance and like sort of saw what the Lakers were doing and like, yeah, sign me up for more of that, the guys who put that team together. I mean,
that's why I think the more we talk about it, the more it feels like basketball is only 50% of the equation.
If that much.
And you know what, maybe he feels like he's still enough of a draw and he's still enough of a force that he can change the team basically on the drop of a dime because he basically did do that with the Cavs multiple times over the last few years.
Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened and how much of an involvement or role or input or lack of input he had in the Kyrie deal, which ultimately seems to have sealed the fate in Cleveland because it meant that they lost that sidekick that he needed going into a finals. It seems like one team drama just begets another one, and just when we thought we were kind of done with disaffected superstars and teams making major moves, news came out today that there were problems in Minnesota between Jimmy Butler and Karl-Anthony Towns specifically, but also like a side rumor that Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler might be reportedly, allegedly in cahoots to team up at some point. What do you make of all the drama in Minnesota, Kev?
I mean, it's happened the whole season with Towns and Butler. They don't exactly get along. They're completely different types of guys, different personalities, and their playing styles that haven't necessarily blended as you would have hoped for. I think with Jimmy Butler, there was noise last summer that that Kyrie Irving was a target for the Minnesota Timberwolves at the time. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I think that Team USA connection is very strong across the NBA.
They were singing 1,000 Miles together, I believe, in Rio. That's the song that brought them together. It's pretty amazing how underneath like all of these we want to team up together is usually a Team USA connection.
Yeah, it almost feels like where you grew up and then Team USA are equally as influential as college.
Yeah.
In terms of forming these bonds, even sometimes if you have a shared agency now.
I think it's just like a different type of young star, and I think about this a lot. Like we're entering a different phase of celebrity with the NBA, and you have someone like Towns who is really, really good. I would probably rather have Butler tomorrow than Towns, but you have like this younger type of star that is so hungry for winning, and the attention that comes with it. It's not just about the winning, which I think is why Paul George stayed in Oklahoma City. I think he's like wired a little bit differently, but someone like Towns wants like the adoration that also comes along with it. And in Minnesota, I think Butler is similar. I think Wiggins is similar, and that's a problem.
Well, I think it's also fascinating. It'll be interesting to see the Lakers this year, especially if they wind up keeping that young core together and not making a trade for a superstar, because it will be this collision of guys at the tail end of their career and guys at the beginning of their career. And that's exactly what happened with Minnesota. You had this young group of Towns and Wiggins with a couple of other young players around them. And then when Tibbs came in, he kind of surrounded them with the Bulls team from 2008 or whatever. And I feel like that was like a culture clash that really wound up creating this issue that they have there now.
For sure, I think so as well. I mean, with Tibbs, obviously never plays young players, and he plays his veterans for 35, 36 minutes a game. I think that was another part of it for their chemistry issues last year with guys that probably should be playing, not playing.
Yeah.
Or guys that should be playing more, not getting those minutes. And then obviously to tie that to LeBron, it'll be a frustrating season for him, I'm sure, playing with young guys and Lance Stevenson and so on that team.
If only he lived somewhere where the weather was nice.